Usually when we look at an instrument like a guitar, it makes complete sense, right?
Yeah, totally. It's just wood and wire.
Exactly. It's physical tension. You pluck a string, it vibrates at a specific frequency, and, well, you get a sound. It's totally predictable.
Right. It's just basic physics. Input perfectly equals output.
But then you put that exact same instrument into the hands of a human being, and suddenly it's not just wood and wire anymore.
No, not at all.
You are plugging the chaotic, messy, just profoundly complicated human mind into this amplifier, and what comes out is raw, unpredictable voltage.
Which is exactly what makes music so compelling.
Right. And we're looking at a deeply personal conversation today featuring the acclaimed Grammy-nominated musician Marcus King, and it just perfectly captures this dynamic.
It really does.
So, okay, let's unpack this, because what starts as a pretty casual conversation about mastering the guitar, it spirals incredibly fast.
Oh, it goes deep, fast.
Yeah, it goes into the extreme lengths the human mind will go to in order to cope with, to escape, and ultimately create reality. And we really want to bring you, the listener, along for this ride because it gets wild.
It really is fascinating because to get to the level of a Marcus King, you have to start at the absolute foundation of mastery, which is honestly obsession.
Right. You can't just be casual about it.
Exactly. But what we often fail to recognize is that the neurological mechanism that creates that musical genius, it's the exact same mechanism that drives complete self-destruction.
Which makes sense, right? Getting truly brilliant at anything, whether it's playing the blues or, I don't know, perfecting your golf swing.
Yeah.
It requires a level of focus that is arguably dangerous.
Highly dangerous. You can't just be okay with your progress.
Right. You have to be entirely consumed by it. But when you're a live performer, that consumption is usually coming from a very specific, often painful psychological place.
Yeah, the comedian Dan Soder actually put it perfectly.
Love that quote.
It's so good. He pointed out that the act of live performing is essentially going around every single night, craving the approval of thousands of complete strangers.
Which is such a strange thing to do when you think about it.
It is. And he says it's usually because something went fundamentally wrong in your childhood. You have this underlying anxiety, this massive emotional void, and you're using the applause of a crowd to mathematically fill it.
Wow. Which just sounds absolutely exhausting for the performer.
Oh, it's completely draining.
You're constantly outsourcing your self-worth to, a room full of people who just bought a ticket.
Right. And that's why the ultimate evolution for an artist, the only way to really survive a long career is you have to shift that internal framework.
How do you mean?
Well, you have to evolve from going on stage craving their love to going on stage to give them love.
Oh, wow. That's a huge shift.
Huge. You have to want to elevate the room rather than just using the room to validate your own existence.
But when that crowd validation isn't enough, or, when the sheer pressure of that underlying anxiety just gets too heavy to carry, that obsessive mechanism finds another outlet.
And it usually isn't a healthy one.
No. For Marcus King, that battle became alcohol.
Yeah.
Trying to just drink like a gentleman.
Right, like a normal person having a drink with dinner.
Exactly. Have a casual cocktail after a show. But he couldn't. He realized he had this deeply destructive urge to, and this is exact phrasing, to completely burn my life to the ground.
Which is such a powerful way to say it.
It is, and it was all just to avoid feeling his repressed emotions.
Well, and what's fascinating here is the neuroscience behind that kind of preemptive self-destruction.
Because it seems illogical, right? Why ruin your own life?
Right, but it actually makes perfect psychological sense. If your brain subconsciously feels like failure or profound emotional pain is inevitable, it will sometimes decide to just execute a preemptive strike.
So you destroy it yourself.
Exactly. You destroy your life yourself, so you don't have to wait in agonizing suspense for the other shoe to drop. You are regaining control of when the disaster happens.
Oh, man. It's
a defense mechanism against sitting with raw, unprocessed trauma.
Wow. You're triggering the disaster on your own terms, just to end the suspense.
Precisely.
But the physical and mental toll of doing that with alcohol is just brutal. The analogy Marcus uses is so brilliant. He says drinking is essentially like taking a loan out on the good times.
That's incredibly accurate.
You borrow happiness from tomorrow just to feel okay right now. And then tomorrow, You got to pay it back with massive interest.
And that interest isn't just a headache. We are talking about severe dopamine depletion in your brain's reward center,
Right.
amplified baseline anxiety, and just the sheer physiological stress of pushing your body through toxic recovery. It is a completely unsustainable way to self-medicate the friction of reality.
Right. But, okay, hold on. I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Because if self-medicating with alcohol is this chaotic, destructive way to cope, and someone is literally burning their life to the ground, well, isn't that exactly why we turn to modern medicine?
In theory, yes.
I mean, we want the clean, scientific fix. We prescribe a pill because it supposedly stops the chaos.
That's definitely the intention, yes. But the reality of those pharmaceutical fixes is that they often don't resolve the underlying trauma at all.
They just mask it.
Worse than that, they just trade chaotic destruction for total emotional numbness. We are seeing a massive cultural experiment with this right now, with the explosion of GLP-1 drugs.
Oh, right. Like Ozempic and Wegovy.
Exactly. And the incredibly potent ones currently in development, like retatrutide.
These drugs absolutely fascinate me, but honestly, they also terrify me.
They're definitely a double-edged sword.
Because they don't just curb your appetite for a late-night snack. People are reporting that these injectables are curbing all their compulsive addictions.
Yeah.
Alcohol, gambling, impulsive shopping.
Which on the surface sounds like a miracle.
It does. It sounds like a cure for addiction.
Hmm.
But the dark side is how they actually achieve it.
Right. To understand why they work, you have to look at the mechanism. These drugs heavily interact with the brain's mesolimbic pathway. That is your core dopamine and reward highway. They essentially turn down the volume on dopamine spikes. So when you see a piece of cake or a slot machine or a glass of whiskey, your brain doesn't give you that massive surge of desire.
But dopamine isn't just the chemical of addiction, is it?
No, not at all. It's the chemical of drive.
Which explains why people on these medications are reporting that they are losing their desire for everything.
Everything.
They are losing their joy, their creative drive, and even their desire for romantic love. You're not just turning off the craving, you're turning down the volume on the human experience itself.
It's chemical blunting.
Yeah. And that's not even touching the physical side effects. I mean,
Yeah.
We're talking about severe stomach paralysis, gallbladder issues, and the potential for permanent blindness in one eye.
It is the ultimate blunt instrument. And if you contrast that chemical dampening with someone like, say, the musician Jelly Roll.
Oh, right. His transformation is incredible.
He recently achieved a massive 300-pound weight loss, but he did it by actively engaging with his physical reality. He started running 5 miles every single day.
Wow. 5 miles a day.
Yeah. One approach chemically suppresses your humanity to fix a symptom, while the other actively engages your body's natural endorphins to build a completely different reality.
Yeah, that chemical suppression of humanity is exactly what Marcus King ran into with SSRIs.
Yeah.
You know, the standard antidepressants.
Right.
He told a story that genuinely gave me a pit in my stomach. He was at his own grandmother's funeral.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a woman who was highly instrumental in raising him. And as he stood there, he felt completely, entirely numb. He literally could not access his own grief.
He was chemically walled off from his own necessary pain.
Exactly. And he stayed that way until he finally tapered off that specific medication. When his emotions finally broke through, it wasn't during, like, therapy or a profound conversation.
Well,
He was just sitting at a dinner table, and a melody by the jazz legend Wayne Shorter started playing.
just out of nowhere.
Just a specific sequence of musical notes hitting his ear, and it uncorked everything. He just started violently sobbing right there at the dinner table.
Well, music is incredible because of how it processes in the brain. It doesn't just hit one isolated area.
Dial over, right.
Right. It simultaneously activates your auditory cortex, your amygdala, your memory centers. It completely overwhelmed the generalized blunting he had been experiencing.
That makes so much sense.
And this brings up a massive paradigm shift happening in psychiatry right now. For decades, the public was sold the quote-unquote chemical imbalance theory of depression.
The idea that your brain is just broken.
Right. The idea that you just have a random biological shortage of serotonin, like a car low on oil, and you just need to top it off with a pill.
But that theory is basically falling apart now, right?
Entirely falling apart. Most experts now consider it a massive oversimplification, if not completely outdated. We've moved toward what's called a biopsychosocial model.
Biopsychosocial. Okay.
Yeah, depression is rarely just a random glitch in your brain chemistry. It is your brain's completely rational response to a toxic physical environment, a highly processed diet, extreme chronic stress, social isolation, and unresolved trauma.
Which is basically modern life for a lot of people.
Exactly.
But despite that science, about 13% of all American adults are currently taking SSRIs.
Well, because the medical and pharmaceutical industries are heavily financially incentivized to maintain that status quo.
Sure, there's a lot of money in it.
A lot of money. And treating the root causes, rebuilding communities, processing trauma, fixing diets, that takes immense time and resources. Prescribing a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, that takes 5 minutes.
Okay, but I still have to push back on this a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
You're saying it flattens the emotional landscape. But for someone who is absolutely paralyzed by clinical depression, who literally cannot get out of bed to fix their diet or process their trauma, isn't that chemical numbness a necessary life raft?
I see what you're saying.
Aren't we sort of romanticizing feeling the pain when the convenience of a pill might literally keep someone alive?
That is a completely valid point, and I want to be clear here. For acute, life-threatening psychiatric crises, these medications absolutely act as a necessary life raft to keep a person from drowning.
Right. They save lives.
They do. The danger isn't the life raft itself. The danger is that our consumer culture prescribes the life raft as a permanent floating home.
We just stay in the raft forever.
Exactly. We stop trying to swim to shore. But human psychology abhors a vacuum. Because these pharmaceuticals flatten our emotional peaks and valleys, human beings inherently rebel against that.
We want to feel things.
Yes. If the daily grind is too painful and the pills just make us numb, the human mind inevitably looks for a trapdoor to feel something profound again.
Right. We move from numbing reality to just shattering it entirely. Which brings us to the wild frontier of psychedelics and, honestly, the absolute fabric of reality.
This is where it gets truly mind-bending.
It really does. The sheer potency of these substances to rewrite human consciousness is staggering. Take the comedian Ari Shaffir's experience with salvia.
Oh, right.
Now, salvia isn't some complex synthetic chemical made in a lab. It's literally a plant. It's in the sage family.
But neurologically, it binds to your kappa opioid receptors and causes profound, immediate spatial and temporal disorientation.
It's wild. Ari smoked it and was physically unconscious for exactly 10 minutes.
10 minutes of our chronological shared time.
Right, just 10 minutes on the clock. But in his subjective conscious experience, he lived a full 6 months in an underwater society.
6 months.
Let that sink in. He had a 9-to-5 job. He had a girlfriend. He built relationships and daily routines. He lived half a year of a completely different existence.
In 10 minutes.
Yeah. And when he snapped out of it 10 minutes later, the disorientation was shattering. Because that underwater reality felt functionally identical to the reality of sitting on a couch.
And what's truly terrifying is that your brain doesn't even need a chemical catalyst to achieve that level of hallucination.
Really?
No. There is an infamous, highly documented story of a woman who suffered a medical emergency and was placed in an induced coma for 3 weeks.
I'm still reeling from this story, honestly.
It's intense. While her physical body was unconscious, her brain's predictive processing system just took over. You have to remember, the brain is locked in a pitch-black skull.
Right, it doesn't actually see anything.
No. It has no direct access to reality. It only guesses what's happening based on sensory inputs from your eyes and ears. When you cut those inputs off in a coma, the brain just starts generating its own reality to fill the void.
It just hallucinates its own world.
Exactly. And over those 3 weeks, she lived 7 years in her mind.
7 years.
7 years. She got married. She felt the visceral, physical agony of childbirth. She had triplets. She named them Mila, Miles, and Miley.
She spent 7 actual years raising them in her head. She remembered teaching them how to walk. She knew their distinct personalities. She deeply, profoundly loved these children.
And then she woke up.
Oh, man.
And the medical staff had to inform her that her husband, her entire life, and her 3 beautiful children never actually existed.
I can't even fathom the grief of that because, the children weren't real, but the neural pathways firing in her brain were identical to a mother's actual love. The grief was 100% real.
Her mind constructed a universe perfectly indistinguishable from waking life.
So what does this all mean? If you're listening to this right now, I really want you to pause and just think about the implications here.
It's heavy.
It is. If a 10-minute salvia trip or a coma dream can perfectly simulate years of existence, complete with love and pain and complex physics, well, how can you be absolutely fundamentally sure of the reality you're experiencing right now?
You really can't.
How do you scientifically prove to yourself that this deep dive you're listening to, your commute, your life, isn't just the hyper-realistic projection of a brain sitting in a void.
It induces absolute philosophical vertigo. You realize reality is just a fragile consensus. And historically, governing bodies are completely terrified of populations realizing that.
Oh, for sure.
When you look at the historical context surrounding the 1970 Controlled Substances
By the
Act,
Nixon era.
yeah, a very strong argument has been made by historians that placing psychedelics and even marijuana into Schedule 1 wasn't purely about public health.
Not at all.
And regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, the historical claim is that the Nixon administration deliberately weaponized that scheduling. They did it to criminalize and disrupt the anti-war and civil rights movements because those groups were heavily utilizing these altered states.
It makes sense from their perspective.
Yeah.
You have a counterculture rapidly expanding its consciousness, realizing the societal rules are just constructs and the establishment panics. They make the trapdoor illegal. But making it illegal doesn't delete the human urge to escape. It just reroutes it.
It definitely does.
So if we can't legally alter our internal consciousness, what do? We spend billions of dollars building massive external simulations. We channel that urge into screens, into virtual reality, and heavily policed mainstream entertainment.
We are building digital realities that are becoming incredibly visceral. We're tricking our nervous systems in entirely new ways.
Like with the VR stuff.
Yeah, take the current state of VR gaming. Look at an experience like Sandbox VR, specifically their game Deadwood Mansion.
Oh man, if you think VR is just like a clunky headset from 5 years ago, you are way behind.
It's on another level now.
You don't just put goggles on anymore. You strap into a full haptic feedback vest. You are holding heavily weighted physical plastic rifles.
They even have wind, right?
Yes, they have industrial fans wired to the game's engine, blowing wind on you to match the digital environment. You are physically running around a room, and when the digital zombie sprints at you and hits you, the haptic vest actually punches your torso.
Which completely bypasses your logical brain.
Completely.
Your somatic nervous system feels the physical impact, it sees the visual threat, and it dumps real adrenaline and cortisol into your bloodstream. Your body literally believes it is fighting for its life.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals the most bizarre cultural hypocrisy of our time.
Oh, the double standard is wild.
It is. We are totally comfortable building million-dollar digital infrastructures to physically simulate the feeling of murdering zombies. We casually eat popcorn in movie theaters while Brad Pitt brutally bashes someone's head into a mantelpiece on screen.
Right. Extreme visceral violence is completely socially acceptable.
Completely normal.
Yet that exact same society is instantly outraged by the depiction of real human intimacy.
It makes no sense.
Just contrast our acceptance of cinematic murder with the public reaction to art house films like The Brown Bunny, which featured an actual unsimulated intimate scene.
People lost their minds.
The public reaction wasn't just surprise, it was abject horror and disgust. It nearly ruined the director's career. We are perfectly fine simulating the brutal taking of a human life, but the natural biological creation of human life, we panic and we censor it.
And it is so strange because it hasn't always been this strictly policed. Just over 50 years ago, in 1972, the film Deep Throat was released.
Right. The landscape was so different.
It was a literal, explicit pornographic film, but it was treated as a massive, mainstream cultural event.
Everyone was talking about it.
It played in regular movie theaters. A-list celebrities like Johnny Carson went to see it and casually joked about it on television.
Contrast that open communal acknowledgement with today's landscape. Current estimates suggest that anywhere from 4 to 12% of all global internet traffic is dedicated to pornography.
That is an insane amount of data.
Think about the sheer scale of the infrastructure required to host that much data. It is a staggering amount of human bandwidth, and yet it remains deeply stigmatized. It is consumed entirely in the shadows.
We are a society obsessed with consuming these digital escapes, whether it's VR violence or, hidden tabs on a browser. But we are terrified of looking in the mirror and asking why we need to escape so badly in the first place.
Right. We want the numbness, but we don't want the truth.
Exactly.
We use the VR, the alcohol, the endless scrolling, the pills, all of it, just to sand down the friction of actual existence. We view emotional pain as a glitch to be patched.
But wait, as we return to the creative mind of the artist that we started with, an incredibly powerful counterargument emerges.
The value of the pain itself.
Right. What if trying to eliminate all our suffering, trying to smooth out every single rough edge of our reality, is actually the biggest mistake we can make?
Because you simply cannot have perspective without the pain.
You can't. There is a great anecdote from the sources about a guy who went on a grueling hunting trip in Alaska.
Oh, I remember this.
He spent 6 straight days trapped in freezing, relentless sideways rain. He was soaking wet, shivering, and completely, utterly miserable.
Sounds awful.
But when he finally flew back to Los Angeles, he stepped out of the airport terminal, felt the completely standard, everyday California sun hit his face, and he burst into tears of profound happiness.
Wow.
He had taken that warmth for granted his entire life. He literally had to suffer in the freezing rain to unlock the ability to feel the sun.
It's the biological necessity of contrast. Without the dark, your eyes just can't perceive the light. And it perfectly explains why kids who grow up with extreme wealth kids, who have every financial and logistical obstacle removed for them, they rarely make great generation-defining artists.
They just don't have the grit.
No. True artistry, true depth of character, it requires the grit of survival. It requires navigating the darkness. Marcus King and his peers talk openly about the trauma of the music business itself.
Right, dealing with the industry.
Dealing with the manipulative managers, the liars, the people they bluntly refer to as snakes and vampire cunts.
And those vampires will drain your soul dry if you let them.
They absolutely will. But surviving those exact people is the necessary filter. Enduring the vampires is what gives you the radar to finally recognize and appreciate the kind, pure, genuine artists when you actually cross paths with them.
You have to know the bad to see the good.
Exactly. The legendary underground music figure, Colonel Bruce Hampton, had a brilliant term for this. He preached a philosophy of outstruction instead of instruction.
Outstruction, that is such a great concept.
It really is. The premise is that true artistic genius and a true understanding of your own reality cannot be taught by politely following the rules in a sterile classroom.
You can't learn it from a textbook.
No. You can't be instructed into greatness. You have to be outstructed. It has to be discovered through messy, unstructured, profoundly painful, real-world experience. You have to get completely lost in the woods to find your own melody.
Here's where it gets really interesting if you think about it biologically.
Okay, let's hear it.
Suffering, trauma, baseline anxiety. It is exactly like that irritating grain of sand that gets trapped inside the shell of an oyster.
Oh, I like this analogy.
Right. It is highly uncomfortable. It causes constant friction. The oyster's immediate biological reaction is to want it gone.
Naturally.
But without that constant painful friction, the biological process of creating nacre never triggers. If you remove the irritating grain of sand, you never, ever get the pearl.
So the suffering is the catalyst.
The suffering isn't just a roadblock in the way of the beauty. The suffering is the raw material for the beauty.
That is precisely the dynamic at play, and it scales perfectly. Whether you are a Grammy-nominated guitarist channeling a childhood of anxiety into a blistering, beautiful guitar solo, or you are just an everyday person trying to navigate the mundane friction of a Tuesday morning commute, the mechanism is identical.
It's all the same.
The very emotions we spend billions of dollars trying to numb are the exact tools that make us capable of creating meaning in the first place.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today.
We really have.
We started by unpacking the dangerous, double-edged obsession required for true mastery, and how the brain's defense mechanisms can so easily tip that obsession into the trap of alcohol and preemptive self-destruction.
Right.
We examined the modern pharmaceutical landscape, looking at how GLP-1 injectables and SSRIs offer the promise of a cure, but often demand the heavy tax of blunting our dopamine and flattening our humanity.
The chemical life raft.
Exactly. We step through the trapdoor into the mind-bending realities of coma dreams and salvia trips, realizing just how fragile our grip on reality truly is. We explored society's hypocritical reliance on digital escapes like VR violence to safely alter our consciousness.
And we censor the natural stuff.
Yeah, and finally, we arrived at the profound realization that our pain, that irritating grain of sand, isn't a bug in the system, it is the essential feature. We all build our realities, and we all desperately use coping mechanisms to survive them.
And as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave you listening to this right now with a final scenario to ponder on your own.
Oh, I love these.
We spend so much of our lives and our money trying to eradicate our own pain. But imagine a scenario where a new, absolutely flawless medication is invented tomorrow.
A magic pill.
Yes, this single pill instantly and permanently cures all of your anxiety, all of your sadness, and all of your physical discomfort. It has zero physical side effects. Your mind will be perfectly, flawlessly calm forever.
Sounds pretty tempting, honestly.
But the catch is this. If you swallow it, you will never again experience a profound aha moment. You will never create a meaningful piece of art, and you will never feel deeply, overwhelmingly moved to tears by a piece of music ever again.
Wow.
Would you take the pill?
It really makes you wonder what we're actually trying to achieve here. Because in the end, the human mind isn't a machine that you just program to be quiet and efficient. It's an instrument.
Hmm.
And sometimes the most incredibly beautiful music only comes from the strings that are pulled the tightest.